Hey man, I'm Jusko from ProudMoney.com. If you are a Verizon Visa credit card customer, there's a good chance that you've received one of these flyers in the mail, or maybe you've got something from via email, or both, telling you that Verizon and their credit card issuing partner, Synchrony Bank, are changing the reward structure on the Verizon Visa. And on the surface, it sort of looks like a wash, or maybe it could look like you're even getting something better when they make these changes. But as far as I'm concerned, the card is getting worse, and I'll tell you why. So at the most basic level, at least as far as I'm concerned, what is happening or what is changing with the Verizon Visa is, according to the numbers on this flyer, you are gaining 1% in rewards on restaurant purchases, but you are exchanging that for a loss of 1% rewards on your Verizon purchases, although that is definitely not how Verizon is positioning it in their marketing on this flyer. So let me give you my rationale here. Currently, the Verizon Visa gives you 4% back in rewards or Verizon dollars on grocery store purchases, 4% back on gas purchases, 3% back on restaurant purchases, 2% back on Verizon purchases, 1% back everywhere else. It's a pretty nice structure if you are a Verizon customer, and then also you get a $10 discount each month on each phone line that you have with Verizon if it is being paid with the card. So overall, if you're a Verizon customer, not too much to complain about. The rewards you earn essentially can only be used toward your Verizon bill or toward new Verizon hardware, but otherwise, you know, you got to pay your bill anyway, so that still feels pretty good. Now the new structure here shows you 4-4-4 almost across the board, which is saying 4% at grocery stores, 4% on gas purchases, 4% now on restaurant purchases, which is up 1%. And then it also says 4% on Verizon purchases, although that excludes bill payment and anything else that gets charged to your Verizon bill, which we'll come back to in a second. And then you get 1% back on everything else. And it also says plus 1% back on your Verizon bill payment. And while getting the extra 1% on restaurant purchases is nice, what is extremely deceptive is showing 4% on Verizon purchases, because the way the card currently works, you're getting 2% on your Verizon purchases, which includes anything you buy directly from Verizon, but also includes your actual bill that you are paying to Verizon every month that you are putting on to this card. Under the new structure, you're only going to get 1% on any Verizon purchases that go on, which means if you pay your bill with the card, you're going down to 1% from 2%. If you make any purchases of phones or other equipment, at least as far as I can tell, if those go on to your bill, those are also only going to get 1%. So when you say 4% on Verizon purchases, but it's not your bill, and it's not anything that you buy that goes on to your Verizon bill, even if it's from Verizon, what are you getting 4% back on? Well, as far as I can tell, the only way you would get 4% on a Verizon purchase is if you buy a phone from Verizon outright, pay for it all at once, and any accessories that you might buy for that phone as well. But for many of us who are Verizon customers, including myself, if we buy a new phone, oftentimes what we are going to do, and oftentimes Verizon is offering us deals to do so, is to pay for that phone over time, and that becomes part of our bill. So we're paying for a chunk of the phone each month until we have that phone paid off. A lot of people don't buy that phone outright when they actually get the phone, and so in this case, Verizon's saying, well, if you buy it outright, we'll get you 4% in rewards on that, but if you put it onto your bill and you pay for it over time, you're only going to get 1%. So what used to be 2% on pretty much anything that you would buy from Verizon on the Verizon Visa is now going to be pretty much 1% on almost maybe everything for most people that you would buy from Verizon, and those few outliers that might buy their phones outright would get the 4% on those Verizon purchases. But even if you buy your phones outright, you're still only going to get 1% on the bill payment, which is subtracting 1% in rewards from the 2% that you're currently getting. Now you might look at what Verizon has done and say, well, you're getting an extra 1% on the restaurant purchases, and so if you're getting 1% less on the Verizon purchases, well, it's probably just a wash. What is the big deal? Well, for a lot of us, if we hold multiple credit cards, we can get that 4% or more on restaurant purchases from other credit cards we have. So if we can get 4% or even 5% on our restaurant purchases, increasing that on the Verizon Visa is really not doing anything for us. If this is the only card you hold and you put everything on your Verizon Visa, yeah, that might feel good, especially if you spend a lot at restaurants. But if you're getting something just as good on a different credit card, that is not helping you. However, in terms of the 1% reward that you are losing on your Verizon purchases, that one you are going to feel because you're not going to get that higher reward from anything else, because the way the Verizon Visa is structured, you're getting that $10 off per phone line each month. So you're not even going to go after another card and say, okay, something like the Wells Fargo autograph that would give me 3% on my bill payment versus the 1% I'm now going to be getting. Well, that's still going to be less in rewards than I'm going to get from the $10 per line discount from Verizon, unless I just have a humongous phone bill every month. So really what Verizon is doing is they are saying, oh, we're jacking up the restaurant rewards, and we're going to make the restaurant owners pay for that part of it, but we are going to grab some profit back. Instead of giving you 2% on those bill payments and other purchases of phones from us, we're going to knock that down to 1%, and we get to keep that 1%. So the 4% of restaurants not hurting us, the extra 1% that we are getting totally goes to our bottom line. And Verizon and Synchrony Bank are right. Essentially, by giving you that 2% on the Verizon purchases, including the bill payment, they're sort of competing against themselves, because you're not going to get a better deal anywhere else, at least not as long as that $10 off per line is part of the equation with the Verizon Visa. So getting rid of that 1%, you're still not going to give up the card, at least on your Verizon purchases, because you want that $10 off. So you're a little bit stuck. Once you're in the card, once you're getting $10 off per month per line, you're not going to do anything about it when Verizon takes your reward down. So I give the upcoming changes to the Verizon Visa a thumbs down, even though I have to admire their marketing spin in making it look like the card is actually getting better. And maybe for some people, if this is the only credit card you use and you're getting that 4% on gas, groceries, and restaurants, regardless of anything else going on with the card, it's still a pretty decent structure for a card, even if you can only use your rewards toward Verizon purchases. So it's not like the card's getting bad, it's still a pretty good card, but it's getting a little worse. I would love to hear your thoughts about it in the comments section below. Put those right down there. Otherwise, I thank you for watching, and as always, please go to proudmoney.com, where we do credit card reviews, we talk personal finance, we talk deals, and all sorts of other fun stuff too. If you're not going to leave a comment or go to the website, watch this video next.